car mechanic. Today we're going to be doing a valve cover gasket on a 2016 Honda Accord Sport. This is going to apply to 2013 all the way to 2017. Alright, so these are going to be the parts and tools that we're going to need. We have the valve cover gasket here. This specific gasket has little spark plug tube seals that don't apply to the 2016 Honda Accord, but apply to any of the 2013 through 2017, except 2016. We got the brake parts cleaner to go ahead and clean up any oil, as well as the paper towels. I'm using a wire brush here because we're going to have to get some of the old RTV off from the corners. We're going to need RTV to go ahead and reseal those corners. We also have a pliers to remove hoses. We're going to need a flathead screwdriver to go ahead and get rid of the clips, and then we're going to use a 10mm wrench as well as a 12mm wrench to get rid of the bolts for the alternator. Little trick, instead of using the typical spot here that you would normally keep it on with the hood prop, Honda has a service position where it'll make it open the hood even higher once you get it out. It'll give you more light and more room so you don't hit your head. Alright, so how you're going to typically know when you have a valve cover gasket leak is when you start seeing oil seep from around the perimeter of the valve cover. As you can see, there's a little bit of oil residue. So that's why we're going to replace the gasket. Alright, we're going to go ahead and remove these perimeter bolts for the top cover for the ignition coils. Alright, once it's loose, we should be able to lift the cover up. That to the side. Alright, we're going to go ahead and remove the coils. These are also 10mm. I'm going to go ahead and lift the coil up. Just wiggle it out. Pull the tab on the connector. Got a lot of oil in this one here. Alright, so because there's some wires that we're probably going to have to disconnect because they go over the valve cover to the alternator, I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect the negative battery terminal so we don't cause any electrical issues. Let's go ahead and wiggle it off. We'll set it to the side for now. We'll go ahead and continue pulling off other parts here. So we need to disconnect the oxygen sensor here. There's going to be a little tab right here that we got to click on to slide this forward. And then we're going to pull this tab to disconnect the connector. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and pull this off. So we're going to take this cover off here. And it just pulls up. You don't have to pull too hard. Maybe a little bit on this side. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and undo this hose right here. Get some needle nose pliers. Might have to fight it. And just kind of use it to break loose the rubber here, the rubber seal. Alright. Put that right here for now. Alright. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and take this wiring harness off, but this wire harness does go down all the way to the alternator as well as the AC compressor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the nut here. Our alternator is remanufactured, so the bolt's a bit different. Normally this is a 12 millimeter. On this one it's a 13. So we're just going to loosen it up. Pull the connector here. Now, to get these clips off, you just push the little wings in the back here with your fingers or with a flathead screwdriver. Here's another wing. Just pull with that. Alright, then I'm going to go ahead and pull the wire down here where the AC compressor is. It's a blue connector. This will free up the whole harness, and you're going to go ahead and just pull up on it. Now there's going to be little clips here that you got to pull back, so you'll pull this little tab here to lift that up, and then there should be one here as well. You pull forward. There is a clip here too for a harness. It may help to loosen this up to get the harness out. Alright. Now, there is going to be one back here that is going to hold the harness back. It's right here. It's actually clipped to the valve cover. This one may be a little bit difficult to get to, but same concept. There's little wings that you're going to have to push into. This one you may need to use a screwdriver to get it out. You gotta get a screwdriver. Alright. These are the little wings that you gotta compress in. And it's going to be facing this direction, so it's easier for you to get to it. Now we should have, actually we have another one right here. Let's just push this one down. This will help give us a little bit more room. There we go. And now the harness is definitely all the way back. So it gives us access to all the bolts that go around the perimeter of this. Now we're going to get this clamp here for this guy. Just pull it out. Give it the old twist. It'll come right off. And now we're going to go ahead and tack all the perimeter bolts here around the valve cover. Make sure you got all the bolts. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try to move the cover off. Just rock it back and forth. And it should come off. Alright. So now we're going to go ahead and clean the surface and go from there. Alright, so I'm going to use some paper towels because we're going to go ahead and clean off the old gasket material here. Well, RTV. Just don't want that to get inside there. I'm just going to use this little guy right here to kind of help peel it off. Sometimes your drill wants to be a pain. Alright. Scrape that off. Alright, helps clean up the surface there. Got a little piece that wants to stay stuck in there. I'm going to try to get the back now. This might be a bit difficult with this. You may need to use a razor blade. We're just peeling off the little chunks here that didn't get cleaned off. So we want to make sure we have a nice flat and clean surface. Alright, make sure not to get the chunks inside there. Alright, looks good to me on this side. Looks good to me on this side. Alright, these are also the spots that we need to apply our RTV to. Just make sure there's no RTV. In this case, there isn't any here. There is a little bit here. We're just going to peel it by hand. It'll come right off. Just make sure you don't drop it inside the engine. Alright. Now we're going to go ahead and spray it with brake cleaner to go ahead and get rid of the oil. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and clean the surface here. Alright, now we got the surface clean. Now we got to apply the RTV. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and take the old gasket off the valve cover. Just peel right up. Now we're going to go ahead and clean the surface also using brake cleaner. Alright. Just run a paper towel through the valleys here. Kind of dry it up a little bit. And you'll know that you can't replace your spark plug tube seals because there's no screws here to hold them down. So just make sure that they're in the right orientation. Now we're going to go ahead and apply the new valve cover gasket. It only goes in one way, so just kind of match up the grooves here. Alright, let's make sure it's in the groove, because this is what's going to hold it in place when you're trying to put it back down onto the valve, to the cylinder head. Alright, so we have it in place now. Now what we need to do is apply the RTV, which I'm going to go ahead and get now. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and apply the RTV to the locations that we need to do so. So first spot here is going to be this here and this here. As long as you get it on there. Alright, and then we're going to get this little crack right here. Alright. Now we'll try to get to the back. It's going to be a little messy back there. Now we're going to come back to the front and get this crack here and the back one there. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and apply the valve cover. Just go ahead and make sure the seal stays in place when you're putting it down. And it's only going to go in one way. Alright. Make sure also when you're putting it down that these tube seals go around the spark plug tubes. Alright, something is holding it up, so we just got to figure out where it's getting held on. There we go. Alright. To make sure that the seals are in place, you will see them not overlapping onto the actual tubes. So that means they're in place now. But of course, as I did that, the valve cover came out. The valve cover gasket itself came out, so I'm going to pull it up again. Alright. Alright, it's my second attempt because when I put it on again, it fell out. Not sure why it keeps doing that. Only seems to be happening in the back, so that's why we need to double check our work to make sure that everything is in place. I'm going to be really slow with it now just to make sure it doesn't bump anything. Alright. And then we're going to push it down again. Alright. Alright, it appears that is now finally in place. Again, double check the spark plug tube seals. They are good. Now we're going to go ahead and start bolting everything down. Alright, now we're going to start putting the bolts in. Just going to place them so we know that we have all of them in place. Alright, now we know that we have our bolts. Now we're going to go ahead and start tightening them. Alright. Now I'm going to go ahead and start connecting some hoses. Alright, I'm going to connect this hose right here that we unplugged earlier. Get the clamp. And this guy right here. Alright. Now we're going to start putting the harnesses back in place. So it's going to only clip in one place. So we're going to put that and slide that forward. And then you're going to lay this down. These guys have two clips right here. One here, one there. Alright. Now we have it in place. Now we're going to go ahead and route the harness through its little routing cable thing. Now we have the clips to the harnesses. Just push them in until you hear it click. We'll go ahead and plug in our alternator and our AC compressor here. I'm going to go ahead and apply our connection to the alternator. As usual, tools walk away, so I had to go look for mine. Go ahead and tighten this thing now. Don't have to go crazy on that. Make sure this is covered. Easier when you do it with two hands. And it'll be flat just like that. Alright. Make sure that the connectors that you unplugged earlier go get connected. So I got one right here, connected. And then I got to put this harness clip back in there, down here. You'll hear it click. Then I got another one that clips to the valve cover to the valve cover itself. Click. So everything's clipped down. All the connectors are plugged in. Now we're going to go ahead and put the ignition coils in. Just go ahead and get that down there. Might be easier to take this off, actually. Let that go in there loosely. Alright, just had to go ahead and fetch the other two ignition coils. Just going to go ahead and put those in. The seals just decided they wouldn't come off. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and put the bolts that hold them in place, which are 10 millimeter. Alright, once they're all settled down, just make sure everything is settled. Now we're going to go ahead and put the cover that covers all this up. Alright, we're going to put the cover on here. Make sure all the screws line up. Alright. Again, you do not need to go super tight on these. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and plug in our oxygen sensor. We're going to plug it in first. You'll hear the click, and then just make sure it goes onto the bracket. You'll hear a click. I'm going to go ahead and put this little cover on there. Just match it up. Alright. Then we'll put the little hose through all these little guys here. Little clips. Alright, last but not least, we'll go ahead and put the battery on. And that completes the job. Alright, thank you for watching Mobile Car Mechanic, and this completes our valve cover gasket replacement today on our 2016 Honda Accord Sport, which still also applies to 2013 to 2017 Honda Accords. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.